The dining hall was alive with the usual noise of lunchtime. Students filled the long rows of wooden tables, their laughter bouncing off the walls and mixing with the sound of clattering trays. It was a typical day for most, but for her, it was another battle she silently fought every time she walked in. Emily had always been quiet, the kind of girl who preferred to stay unnoticed. She carried herself with an air of shyness, never raising her voice, never stepping into unnecessary conflicts. With her long chestnut hair falling across her shoulders and a pair of glasses that slightly slipped down her nose, she looked like the perfect target for ridicule in a place where cruelty often disguised itself as humor. She entered the hall carrying her tray, eyes lowered, trying to avoid the stares she felt burning against her back. She sat at the far end of the hall where no one usually went, a corner that gave her both distance and safety. She opened her lunch slowly, carefully, as though even the act of unwrapping her sandwich required precision. But safety never lasted long in a world where bullies hunted weakness like predators. At the other end of the hall, 3 boys, Derek, Tyler, and Josh, noticed her. They were well-known troublemakers, boys who thrived on attention and laughter from their peers. Derek, the self-proclaimed leader of the group, had a smirk that always carried cruelty in it. Tyler was the loud one, his laugh sharp and mocking, and Josh simply followed along because he feared becoming the next target if he didn't. Together, they were a force of arrogance and malice. "Look who's here." Derek sneered, nudging Tyler. "Little mouse girl sitting all alone again. Doesn't she ever get tired of eating by herself?" Tyler chuckled. "Maybe she thinks she's too smart for the rest of us. Look at her, quiet, serious. Probably writes poems about cats or something." The Josh joined in. "Or maybe she doesn't talk because she's scared she'll sound stupid." Their voices were loud enough for nearby tables to hear, and a few students turned to watch. Some giggled, others just lowered their heads, unwilling to intervene. The hall seemed to shift as Derek and his crew stood and began walking toward her. Emily felt their footsteps long before she saw them. She knew what was coming, and her chest tightened with a mix of fear and something else she kept buried deep. An anger she had promised herself she wouldn't release unless she absolutely had to. The boys stopped right in front of her table. Derek leaned over, his shadow falling across her tray. "Hey, little mouse, why don't you say something for once? Or are you too busy choking on that sad excuse of a lunch?" Emily raised her eyes slowly, her gaze calm yet piercing. She didn't respond, and her silence seemed to irritate them more. Tyler grabbed her sandwich and waved it in the air. "What is this, whole wheat? No wonder you're so boring. Who eats this garbage?" He tossed it back onto the tray, smearing the bread. The laughter around the hall grew louder. Emily felt her hands tremble, but not from fear. It was the kind of tremble that came before a storm. She had endured weeks of their torment, but today something inside her snapped. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the years of training her father had given her. He had been a martial artist, a man who believed in teaching his daughter not just to defend herself, but to hold her ground with honor. Emily had hidden that part of her life from everyone at school. She never wanted to draw attention to it, but the fire in her chest told her this was the moment she could no longer stay silent. Josh leaned closer, whispering loud enough for others to hear. "Maybe she's mute. Or maybe she's just too scared." That was the final straw. Emily placed her tray down slowly and stood up. Her chair scraped across the floor, the sound cutting through the chatter of the dining hall like a blade. The room fell quieter, curiosity rising in the air. She adjusted her glasses with steady hands and looked Derek straight in the eyes. "You think I'm scared?" Her voice was calm, steady, almost unnervingly controlled. Derek laughed. "Oh, she talks? What are you gonna do, mouse girl? Squeak at us?" The next moment happened so fast that no one could comprehend it. Emily's body moved with precision. Years of disciplined practice unleashed in a single instant. Derek reached forward to shove her shoulder, but before his hand even touched her, she pivoted sharply, her arm brushing his aside. Using his own momentum, she twisted and sent him crashing into the floor with a thud that silenced the entire hall. Gasps filled the air. Tyler blinked, unsure of what had just happened, then lunged at her in anger. But Emily was faster. She stepped aside, hooked her foot around his leg, and with a swift motion sent him stumbling face first onto the tiles. His tray of food clattered to the ground beside him, peas scattering like marbles. Josh hesitated, fear flashing in his eyes, but pride forced him to step forward. He raised his hand as if to push her, but Emily moved with lightning speed. She grabbed his wrist, twisted it gently but firmly, and swept his legs in one fluid motion. He landed on his back, staring up at the ceiling, stunned and humiliated. Within seconds, all three boys who had mocked her were lying on the floor, groaning and holding their sides. The silence in the dining hall was deafening. Every student who had laughed before was now wide-eyed, their mouths open in disbelief. Emily stood tall, her breathing steady, her eyes calm as though nothing extraordinary had just happened. She didn't gloat, didn't smile. She simply picked up her tray, dusted off her sandwich, and sat back down. She took a bite unfazed, as though swatting down 3 bullies was no more than brushing away flies. The boys scrambled up slowly, their faces red with shame. Derek opened his mouth as if to say something, but the weight of the silence, the dozens of eyes staring, and the humiliation of their defeat kept him speechless. They retreated quickly, their arrogance shattered. For the first time, Emily felt the dining hall was truly silent, not the silence of fear but the silence of respect. Students whispered among themselves, astonished at what they had just witnessed. Some looked at her with newfound admiration, others with regret for never stepping in before. But Emily didn't care about their opinions. She hadn't done it for them. She had done it for herself, to prove that silence was not weakness, and that sometimes the quietest voices carried the sharpest strength. As she finished her meal, she knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning.